Hello, hello, everybody. How's everyone doing? All right, cool. Welcome to live Q&A with me, Serena, your host. So I hold these every month for the community. Anything and everything is on the table related to your bookkeeping business, mindset, client work, whatever you want to ask. I'm here at your disposal. Hey, and welcome to the Ambitious Bookkeeper Podcast. I'm Serena Shoup, CPA, a mom of three, and I've been running a virtual bookkeeping business from my home since 2017. You are in the right place if you are a bookkeeper, accountant, or an accounting student, and you believe and know in your heart that your purpose is bigger than sitting in a cubicle. If you're ready to learn some actionable tips and strategies for starting and growing your accounting business, then I hope you stick around. Lillian says, I'm trying to get my budgets for clients done. I don't really like the QuickBooks online budget. Do you create your own? Yeah, so as you may know, I don't use QuickBooks. I use Xero, but what I will say is either platform that you use, I build my budgets in Excel anyway. So I will export the template from Xero. That way it lines up and is easy to import back in when I'm done making the budget. But yeah, I build it out in Excel because that's my background. I've tried other budgeting softwares and things like that, and I always come back to Excel because I know that my formulas are working. I don't have to try to figure out like what's happening in the background of this software or whatever. And then I loaded it back into Xero so we can do budget to actuals in an easy format. And that's the file that I work on with my clients. I typically build it out in Excel. I will do 12 months history and then the 12 months going forward. And I'll, do everything in there and share that file with my clients so that I can tag them in certain cells to ask questions, so that I can leave notes in there. I've just found that Excel still is the best tool for me. So yeah, okay, so the best way to get clients if you're niched in contractors or trades that are veteran-owned companies. So my recommendation would be get involved with your local veteran networking groups. There's usually like, at least I know where I'm at. It could depend on the part of the country that you're in, but our Chamber of Commerce has a veterans only mixer and like subgroup of the chamber. Also, go to trade shows where there's going to be like veteran business owners or construction trade type shows would be, yeah, Central Texas. I'm sure you have veteran networking groups that you could join. So I'm not sure if you yourself are a veteran, but that might be one of the stipulations to be able to join. Your husband is great. Perfect. So join under his name. But yeah, that would be my recommendation for that for sure. And then just put yourself in groups, even Facebook groups for veteran business owners. There might even be like very niche Facebook groups for contractor veteran business owners type of thing. So I know there's a lot of them out. So you should be able to find them, look for podcasts, maybe pitch yourself to those podcasts for interviews or start listening to those podcasts so you can start to see like who all in the space is like a leader or a thought leader or whatever and get in their worlds for sure. Let's see. Next question is from Kristen. How do you handle it when clients don't respond promptly, causing the cleanup phase to drag on and months of books to fall behind? So this is a common question. I feel like I talk about this all the time. We've created things along the way because of issues like this. Number one, the biggest thing is and this is part of why we do a diagnostic phase, is to kind of test out the client's response time during diagnostic. So if we have questions or whatever, how quick are they to respond and all that kind of stuff. And then if they make it through that phase, just being like really intentional and like communicate with clients up front. I understand you're probably already in a situation where you maybe didn't communicate up front or get a good feel for how things would go. So you're already in the cleanup phase. And so the best thing that you can do currently is to literally pick up the phone. Some people are not going to respond to emails and they'll just keep brushing it off or not even checking their email. Some people get really overwhelmed by their email, and so they just avoid it. It's the same thing with their bank account and their numbers. So think of it that way and just understand that they're human. They probably have stuff going on. So probably the best thing that you could do is actually pick up the phone and call them and just check in with them and say, hey, I'm still here. I really want to wrap up your bookkeeping. We're getting into the end of July. Now you're X amount of months behind because we didn't have these questions asked. We weren't able to really move forward. And I want to make sure that we don't end up at year end in a scramble. So what do you need from me to help you? Do you want to schedule a Zoom call where we get together and basically you're body doubling or co-working with them to help them get the answers? Sometimes that's all clients need is a 30-minute Zoom call with you where you're there with them, holding them accountable to log into their bank account, give you access or download statements or whatever it is that you need from them. I know a lot of us tend to get into a situation or a position where it's like, I don't want to get on the phone with my clients or I don't want to be on calls all the time. But if it's a matter of getting the work done that you committed to and getting them held accountable, sometimes that 30 minutes really is worth it. And you'll wonder, like, why didn't I do this at the beginning? So now in the future, you can put those guardrails in place of really evaluating their responses during a diagnostic phase and signing the proposal and engagement letter and getting things all together when you're onboarding. And then one of the other things that we've done is we've added into our onboarding or our engagement letter a blurb about onboarding should only take about 2 weeks. If it takes longer and you're non-responsive, we reserve the right to disengage and keep a portion of whatever they've already paid. So you can add that to their engagement letters too, and then talk about it. Make sure you're talking about how it's supposed to go during your discovery call before they even sign the contract so they understand like what their responsibilities are. Yes, we can put that in the engagement letter, but the truth of the matter is clients are not typically reading everything in the engagement letter. So if it's in there, like what I've done is I've bolded certain text like that. That's really important for them to understand. And then I also talk about it in our discovery call meeting and then also talk about it again on the first onboarding call. It's really important to add in like a kickoff call to create that space where you can hold them accountable and say, okay, we're going to have a kickoff call when we are in the process of gathering information from you so that you know that there's a time that you can carve out that we're available to you to help you gather this information. Because it's really overwhelming for a lot of business owners. That's why they're hiring us, is to get all of this stuff in order for them. And they might not have been keeping great records or they don't really know where they've held everything or kept everything. So they need a little bit of hand holding. So don't be so quick to just disengage with people, meet them where they're at. This is what's going to set you guys apart from like people just engaging with like QuickBooks Live or whatever AI tools are out there. Like give them a white glove treatment. As kind of annoying as it can be, just put yourself in their shoes and figure out like, what would I want if I was onboarding for a service that I was highly uncomfortable with. I haven't been paying attention to it. And I'm like, there's a lot of shame in there too. And that's why people avoid this stuff. So just try to meet people where they're at. My best advice for you is to pick up the phone and call them and be human. That was a long rant. Sorry, guys. Let's see. I hope that's helpful, Kristen. Let's see. Anna says, I'm just now setting up my own books. I'm not sure how to record startup expenses since one, I don't have any revenue yet, and two, the expenses were out of personal accounts because I didn't have my EIN yet. So that would be, and this is what you're going to do for clients as well. You're going to enter the expense in QuickBooks or Xero, whatever you're using, and then you can enter it as a journal entry. It most likely would be the best option is to just ask your clients and yourself, like you create a spreadsheet of startup expenses. This is something that we do for our clients. We say, okay, did you have anything that you spent out of your personal initially before the business got started? Here's a spreadsheet for you to fill out. And you give them just a simple spreadsheet with a date column, a description of it, maybe the vendor, if you want to keep track of that information, and then the amount. And then obviously ask them to keep receipts for those things. And then we create a journal entry from that. So you just book each line item to whatever expense it goes to. And the credit side is going to be owner's contribution. And yeah, that's as simple as that. Just create a journal entry. And it's okay that you don't have revenue yet, as long as you start to have revenue in the first year of when you start. those expenses are all just current year expenses. Now, if you end up overlapping years, only $5,000 of your startup expenses are technically deductible, but that's something that you'll see in your books. I would still record everything, whether it's a deductible or not, and then figure out at tax time what portion is deductible. All right. Hopefully that's helpful for you. Chris says, on your IG, you said you were working on an update for getting clients on Upwork. Do you have an ETA on that? I'm still in an experimental phase right now. I am going in almost every day and looking at Upwork jobs and applying to stuff because I want to see if my methods are still applicable. So my update for you is that I'm still playing the game. Like this is what it takes is consistency of daily going in there and checking on things and applying to jobs. The stats I have so far, I think I've applied to like 10 or so jobs. And the reason it's such a small number is because I'm being selective for what I'm applying to. Since I only work in Xero, I'm only applying to people that it looks like maybe they don't have a bookkeeping system set up yet, so I can get them onto Xero. Maybe they need a QuickBooks cleanup. And so I'm applying to those types of things too. And then my hope is to get them switched over to Xero, things like that. So I'm being highly selective. If you're in there applying for QuickBooks jobs, there's tons of them. So it's a numbers game. So I've applied so far to about 10, and 2 of them have even just viewed my proposal. I've gotten no interviews yet, but that's because like the numbers, it's a numbers game. Like if I was able to apply to 20 plus a day, like you probably can if you're doing QuickBooks work, my results will probably be a little bit different. I just don't want to work in QuickBooks unless it's a cleanup and a migration. So that's my update so far. TBD, stay tuned. I will continue to update y'all. Beth Ann says, treat it like people who avoid the dentist. Yes, exactly. I'm not one of those people. I love the dentist. I go to my dentist appointments like it's a spa treatment. I'm like, yes, I could just lay here and not talk. But yeah, Crystal says, silly question, but to gain confidence, do you know of any bookkeeping practice tests? Do you do one-on-ones? Okay, so bookkeeping practice tests, yes. If you go to the Certified Professional Bookkeeper Association, I think that's what it's called, they have a test that we actually have in the past given to people applying for jobs for us. So go there and do their practice tests. Also, to gain confidence, go through the QuickBooks Pro Advisor training and do their test. And that's a good start. And go through, if you're wanting to work on Xero, you've got to apply to be a partner and go through all their trainings and everything too. So that's a good option. I would start there, but don't stay stuck in confidence building and getting certifications. That I will say that much. Like at some point, you are going to have to put yourself out there and apply for a job and wing it. And just be dedicated to your first client and learning as much as you possibly can and build your confidence that way. That's going to be the quickest way to confidence, is actually just working with a client, and it's going to be scary at first. But you've got this community, you've got these Q&As that you can come to and say, okay, I'm stuck on this one thing. Just like who asked the question, I'm scrolling up because I want to be able to get your name right. Anna, she asked the question about how do I set up my like startup expenses. You can come and ask questions like that here in the Facebook group or on these live Q&As, and don't ever feel like anything is a stupid question. We're here to support you. I do offer one-on-one mentoring as well. If you go to, I will just drop it in the link in the chat. I'm like, and then if you're watching this video replay, it will be below whatever video you're watching. Or if you're listening on the podcast, it'll be there too. But I do have a calendar link, and I do offer one-on-one mentoring, one-off sessions. I also do packages very sporadically for ongoing. Right now, I'm not doing any one-on-one ongoing stuff, but you can book a one-on-one with me like an hour at a time as well. So yeah. What do you like about Xero versus QuickBooks? So I have a whole entire podcast about this, but one of the biggest things is that I came from corporate, and I came from systems where there was actual controls where you can't delete transactions, you can't, you don't do journal entries to change the bank balance and things like that. So that's one of the things I really love about the system is it's got really tight audit controls. It's also a really simple user interface. And QuickBooks is really overwhelming for me visually. And so I really like Xero because it's not. What else? It integrates with Stripe and PayPal really easily. And so most of our clients use those as payment processors. And so that's been really important for us. It has a feature called cache coding where you can mass code transactions from the bank account into all the same coding. And so it makes our process a lot faster. Those are some of the tip of the iceberg that I love about Xero, but their support is also amazing. So if you run into an issue where you're like, I'm not sure how I'm supposed to handle this inventory thing or whatever, you can open a ticket and they will help you. That's not something that you get from QuickBooks Online. Ava asked, I asked you this in Boxer, yes, because Ava's in my ambitious mastermind. What do you use Airtable, Asana, and Dubsado for? I'm trying to get my systems in place and automate a lot, but I'm stuck in which one should start to use. Oh, yes, I need to come back and answer your question about the Dubsado. I forgot I saw that yesterday and then I got busy doing something else. But okay, so here's the breakdown. For Airtable, we're using it more for and I can't really speak that much to it because someone on my team has been managing that project, but we use it for both companies. But what we're using it for inside of our bookkeeping firm is we have created like a form that one of our clients can fill out because she adds billable expenses to some invoicing that we do for her. And that's been streamlining that process. So it's like anytime she has some receipts that she needs to bill back to one of her clients, she submits them through an Airtable form. And then we get an email notification to go in, and Hannah is on my team and she goes and adds it to the invoice. I'm not exactly sure how her process works, but I can have her. She probably already has a Loom video and SOP on it, so I can share that in the mastermind with you so you can understand that. And she's been working on building Airtable out for various other back-end type automation things in our business. We used it for collecting survey results for the state of virtual bookkeeping and things like that. And we use it on the back end of the Ambitious Bookkeeper to keep track of all of our students. We use it as like a CRM. And so everyone that is in any of our programs, we can see at a glance like what all programs they are part of. If they're on a payment plan, we are tracking that. We're tracking so much on our students, which you could totally do with your clients as well as a CRM. So that's what we're using Airtable for. Asana, we're using for specific task management. So this is what we put all of our client work projects in. So each client is a project in Asana because it has recurring tasks and everything. So that's what we're using for managing all of our client work. And as well, we have other projects that are for, marketing and other parts of the business where we need to attach a task to it. It goes in Asana. As for Dubsado, that piece is only being used to capture leads, create proposals, and send out engagement letters and setting up, like initiating all of our workflow setup and onboarding. So we have an intake form in there where we have the checklist of what our clients need to submit and all of that. And then we have automations that go out like email reminders, like you haven't finished your intake form and da 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 da. And then we also have a Zap that connects once they pay their first invoice. It creates our Asana project. It creates the client in Xero. It creates their contact information in OpenPhone. So all of that is automated when a client signs on with us. But once they're on and onboarded, Dubsado is just like a background thing, but you can use it as a CRM. So we do have our like clients' addresses and phone numbers and all of that in there as well. So yeah, so that's where we go to view all those details on a client. There's spots in there for notes and stuff. I know you were thinking of needing something that you could use for client management. So you could use that, but when it comes to like if you need to see notes on nuances about the client as you're working on them, we have all that stuff that lives in Asana. So in the overview project, like I said, in Asana, every client has their own project. There's an overview page of that project, and that's where we keep all the details about that client so that they're at our fingertips when we're working on the client. So I'm talking email addresses, phone numbers, addresses, state tax IDs, who they bank with. All the details about the client are in that overview page in Asana. We even have their scope of work in there, which is really important. So the team understands like what we're supposed to be doing, what are the deadlines for the client. I believe that is really important information to have at your fingertips when you're currently working on the client. And so that's why we keep it in Asana so that like we don't have to have 20 different programs open. So I hope that's helpful for you. Crystal says, I have 20 years from corporate, from AP to assistant controller. I think I'm good, but getting nervous. Girl, you are so good. You have the experience. You just need to like take the step and go get your first client. And you're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna undercharge. I guarantee it. I was same as you. I had lots of years of experience in corporate. I was a controller. Like, I know what I'm doing when it comes to bookkeeping and accounting, but I was literally charging like $25 an hour when I first started. So don't make that mistake. At least charge like $50 to $100 an hour if you're going to charge hourly initially, if you have that level of experience. But we all have to start somewhere. So if that's what it takes to build your confidence and you're going to undercharge your first client, there's no way around that. That's just going to happen. So just go do it and get it over with. Fail fast. I've been listening to David Duchovny's podcast. He has a podcast about failing, and that's one of the things he talks about. It's like just fail and then like move on with it. Kristen says, can you share how your team is structured, whether you have someone dedicated to cleanups and what your review process looks like on a monthly basis? Yes. So I have two part-time bookkeepers that do the daily bookkeeping tasks and the month-end close. And then I have an account manager who reviews everything on a monthly basis and then wraps everything up and sends it to clients with whatever level of summary that they are engaged for, whether it's a Loom video or just an email or the ones that have meetings with me, he preps all that for me. And so I can just hop on to the meeting. No one is dedicated to cleanups because we are not that busy. When we get a client that needs a cleanup, I'm typically the one that does that because I'm the one that handles the onboarding and establishing that process for my team. And that's just currently how we're set up. I would love to, at some point, hand that off to someone else, but that's my current setup. And we don't have that many of them rolling in. And so it's not an issue, but I know there are people in our community who specialize in cleanups. So if that's something that you're interested in subbing out, you can also do that. But yeah, that's what our structure looks like. I only have a couple clients that meet with me. The rest of our clients get their financials and a Loom video from my account manager. And yeah, that's our process, and I love it. How long does it generally take your team to migrate a new client from QBO to Xero? Again, that's a process that I handle. So I handle the migrations, cleanups, all that kind of stuff. And I use JetConvert. And so it usually only takes me as long as it takes to get the QBO file ready, which generally, if they don't need a cleanup, it's fast. Like I just make sure that there's the specific steps that JetConvert requires. You just go through their checklist before you try to start the migration. And I usually use like the middle tier of JetConvert. And so they usually turn it around within a few days. And then I check over everything once it's in, and then we roll them into monthly bookkeeping. Sometimes there's a little bit of cleanup and stuff that needs to be done in Xero once the transfer is done, like renaming accounts and cleaning up the chart of accounts and stuff. And so you can migrate someone within a week. All that to say, it doesn't take very long when you use a tool like JetConvert, but we don't do anything manually. Okay, Terry says, I like Xero and want to start using it more, but I notice it doesn't support many credit unions on bank links. I wanted to set up my own business, but it won't find my credit union. This has kept me away to try and move clients from QBO to Xero. Do you know much about this? Yes. So a lot of credit unions actually do connect if they're on like a certain platform and it's connected through something called Yodlee feeds or something like that. And I've noticed that the clients that we do have on credit unions, those feeds break a lot. So we need to have access to their bank account to be able to connect and reconnect their bank feeds. And so that's one thing that I will say. Sometimes it won't recognize the credit union when you initially set up the bank account. And then once you've set up your bank account in Xero, it'll say feeds are available and give you like a get feeds link. So that could be something that's happening too. The other thing I will say is if your client doesn't need bookkeeping done on a weekly or daily basis, then you can just import the statements at the end of the month. And I do that for a couple clients because they're not looking at things throughout the month. None of our clients really do. It's just at month end when we wrap everything up. So I just get access to their bank account so I can export the Excel file and import it. And that's a very easy process in Xero, and Xero nails it a lot better than QuickBooks. So that's an option too, is to just not have bank feeds connected and just import statements. Totally doable. So if you wanted to try that out on yourself, on your own books, and test it out and see how efficient you can get, that's an option too. Maggie says, or hopefully I'm pronouncing your name right, Maggie or Maggie. Sorry, this might be a bit out of place here, but I just got off a call with a potential client and they are convinced that half of the self-employment taxes can be entered as an expense on their Schedule C. How would I classify this in their accounting? Okay, so it sounds like they're a single member LLC, and they are correct. They do get a deduction for half the self-employment taxes, but that's not calculated until you do your tax return. If they're operating as they should as a single member LLC, they shouldn't be having themselves on payroll. So you're not going to have those expenses on the books. Everything that they pay themselves is going to go to owner's draws. And then at tax time, when they do their taxes, they're just getting taxed on the whole profit of the business. And then the self-employment tax gets calculated through the profit of the business. You're not going to have any of those expenses on their books. So that's how I would explain it to a client is you are a single member LLC. All of what you pay yourself should be done as owner's draws. That's not going to show up on your income statement, but at year end, you will get that deduction. Also, you could pop that into ChatGPT and be like, help me explain this to someone who doesn't understand in a very plain English, straightforward way to be able to educate a client. I do that a lot so that I'm like, I don't want to use jargon on them, but I'm having trouble figuring out a way to explain this so that the general people understand. So if they are paying themselves through payroll as a single member LLC, they need to stop and just do owner's draws. That happens a lot. Amber says, I have a question, but it's not exactly technical or straightforward. Can I ask live? Yes, you may. If you're still here, you can unmute.
I'm here. Hi.
Hi, so nice to see you.
Oh, hi. So I got a random reach out from someone who found me on the QuickBooks Pro Advisor
Mhm.
directory, specifically because I'm in this zip code and he's here as well. He has a business that he needs help. He says he's already done the cleanup. He said that he's just confused as to whether or not if he's got duplicate entries or things like that. Like he's like, I think it's reconciled. My CPA has already helped me categorize things. I got on with QuickBooks experts and we walked through things so I'm feeling like he just wants to meet someone in person, just to get confidence in it because he's
Mhm.
closing the business down. So it's just filing the 23 and 24 taxes and then shutting it down and everything.
Yeah,
So I'm like, well, what kind of deliverable could I offer him so that he can stop running around trying, like he's obviously trying to search for something, some kind of answer of some sort. I'm probably not going to tell him anything different because
right.
it's the same. So it's like
Yeah.
I'm just curious, what could I give him as a deliverable? Because when I do diagnostics or things like that, I'll give them a report
Mhm.
that's just like you taught us in BBA. Like this is what I'm seeing. This is, like with like little boxes around, like this is where yours is
Yeah.
wrong, and here's the solution that I think you should do. But I don't know. I'm not sure that that's going to work this time. It seems like he wants something else. So I was just curious if you had a
Peace of mind. He
yeah.
wants to just know that it's done correctly. So I would still offer something like that. I would say, let me do my diagnostic service where I go through the balance sheet line by line to make sure everything is where it needs to be. And I'm going to verify your bank reconciliations with your bank statements. So I'm going to need those for year end. And if I find that they're not balanced, then I'm going to need prior months as well. And so I would just go through that whole diagnostic process and be like, at the end of it, I can give you a report that shows you what needs to be fixed, or it will just be a report that these are your numbers, everything looks good, but it's not an audit. Like you can't rely on it. I would just be clear that it's not like a real audit, but just like you've categorized everything, you've reconciled everything. So on a report like that, I would be like, list out the bank accounts and do like a green check mark and just be like reconciled to Xero, like it's perfect, and then print the reports as a package. Like, here's your final balance sheet,
Mm,
here's your final income statement for the year. And you could do year over year. I don't know how many years he had in there, but just to put a little package together, make sure the bottom of it says for internal use only. So it's not like perceived to be audited financials or anything like that, but just be like, yes, all of this has been verified. Good job. Like if nothing's wrong, that's how I would handle it. I would just be like, here's the financial statements. I verified all the balance sheet accounts when the and I would just put that at like in a paragraph at the top. Like when we know the balance sheet is reconciled, then we know everything is accounted for.
okay.
And then just do like visually green check marks next to each bank account and credit card and be like, there you go. Is this the like, and you could talk to him and be like, is that the peace of mind that you need to
Yeah.
wrap this up? Because he might just feel like I need to know that everything is going to be fine. You can be like, and then you can hand this to your CPA and say, like, yes, we verified all the bank reconciliations. Hopefully the CPA is doing that at your end, but not all CPAs do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Thank you. It's just cool because it I think this is like the universe working in my favor because this person is in my dream niche. And I did not state in my profile that I was looking to work with these. So I'm like, something's here. I
Yeah.
don't know what can I do to really nail this so
That's
that
exactly what I would do and just really add that personal touch of like listening to him and being like, what is it? Is it that you just need peace of mind? This is what I can do in that case.
okay.
And you'll probably get referrals from this person.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Good luck. Let me know how it goes.
Thanks.
Let's see, more questions. Thao says, I'm stuck on choosing a niche. I work with nonprofits and service-based businesses, and their problems are similar in a sense, but they speak about them differently, and I have a hard time to speak to both. I would pick one that lights you up the most and focus all of your marketing on that one for a while and see what happens. Like just pick one, the one that lights you up the most, and just go with it. In my opinion, I don't know if this is the one that lights you up the most, but nonprofit is such a specific thing that if you gear all of your marketing and messaging towards that, you're also going to end up with service-based businesses because people are just going to naturally find you. But nonprofits need to know that you know nonprofits. So it's really important for you to have that in your messaging if that's one of the niches that you really actually want to focus on. And you'll get service providers. But if you market towards service providers, you're not going to get nonprofits because they want to know that you understand nonprofits, if that makes sense. So that would be my approach. I would just focus your messaging and marketing on nonprofit, and then service providers will trickle in. Marcus says, question, my client does not have their POS system integrated with QBO, so I'll have to monthly book a journal entry to record the tips collected. By the time I do this, the tips have already been paid out. Should I book a journal entry to debit bank account, credit tips, and debit tips and wages to reflect the correct balances? Yeah, I would do that. And hopefully it reconciles by the time you book the journal entry, but then you can also double check to see like when they've paid out the tips, there should be some sort of indication of that. And so you can see if it matches what was collected. And if not, then I would address it immediately with the client and let them know your tips paid out don't match what's actually in the POS system and ask them where they're getting that number. But hopefully it all balances out. And yes, that's how I would handle that. So this brings us to the end of our live. I hope everyone got what they needed today. Even if you didn't ask any questions, I hope you got an answer that you didn't know you needed. And we'll see you soon. Bye. Thank you to everyone who helps make this podcast possible. Content and interviews are produced by me, Serena Shu. Our intro and outro music is written and performed by my brother, Ian Gilliam. Editing is also by Ian using his awesome sound engineering skills along with Descript software. Hosting and publishing is by Buzzsprout. And you can check out the show notes for links to all of these amazing resources and resources mentioned in the episode.
Be ambitious.